Hello, I'm Lisa, and this is step number 3 of StartMeUp Business Walkthrough. And this week we're going to be talking about our cash net worth position. You'll recall from last week we talked about budgeting, and I showed you a budget where you have your income and your expenses, and we hope that we're making enough income to cover our basic living expenses. And if not, then we need to know, at least we know what our business will need to make for us if we're going to use our business to fund some of our lifestyle. Okay, so this week for step number 3, we're talking about as I said, our cash net worth position. So that's like the second part. So there's 3 parts to the budget. You've got the budget that we worked last time. This week the net worth, our cash net worth position, and next week we'll talk about the cash flow forecast, which we do over a year. So let's get started right into it. What I've got here on the board is, you can see here that this is, I've got 2 columns. First of all, we'll look at this in 2 parts. 2 columns, assets and liabilities. And the date of this is the 31st of March. Now, what I've done, and how you're going to work out your cash net worth position, is you literally look up or contact your banks and ask them what the balance was of your bank accounts at the end on the last day of the month, or else you get your bank statements out, or however, and then you just get your spreadsheet or get a piece of paper and write down the amounts. So in this example, I've got bank number 1, I had $550. These are just made up figures, by the way. 550. Bank number 2, $275. I've got some cash on hand, $100, and some shares of $100. So that's my cash. Now this is cash or shares or anything that you can get that you can convert to cash. Okay, so no assets or equities or anything like that, but just we're focusing on the cash. So over on the liabilities side, we've got an ANZ, we've got a credit card, $7,500, and an ANZ loan, $2,000. A BNZ credit card, $1,500, and then our monthly creditors, $1,000. Now, if you've done your budget from last time and recall in our expenses, we worked out how much our expenses are for the month, and that's what this figure is. It goes into here. So, because we're assuming that we're going to pay our creditors on a monthly basis, or we can work it out to be that figure. So now what you will notice in these 2 columns is, because we're focusing on cash, I have not included if you've got a mortgage, you've got a house and you've got a mortgage, I have not included that as an asset, quite simply because a house, you live in your house, it doesn't generate you any income, and you don't want to sell your house to pay back debt. And that's the reason for leaving that out. I also do not put in a mortgage payment as debt that is owed, and that's really because we're not putting in the asset, so it balances each other out. And if you're going to put a debt, say we've got an example of a debt of $12,000, if you go and put a mortgage in there of $100,000, you're always going to have a negative net worth, and I guess there's psychological impacts to that. So but it's up to you again entirely. If you want to include it, that's fine. But I've chosen, well, I rent anyway. So, but if I had owned my own home, I would still not put my home in here, and I would not put the mortgage in here. But my rent or my mortgage payments are covered in this amount for the creditors, because recall in our budget we include our payment for our mortgage or for our rent each month, and that still comes into here. So you're still including the monthly payment at least. Because it's the purpose of doing this, because my business is going to be a cash-based business, I want to know how much cash I've got on hand, because your business can have a whole different focus when you are focusing on the cash for that point of view. So what we've got here, we've got a debt of $12,000. We've got, and the key thing with this is, and why I do it like this, is because the cash that you earn from your income, from your regular income, is used to service this debt as well. So keeping that in mind. So we've got debt of, if if everybody called in the money that I owed them, I would have to come up with $12,000 to pay them back. That's excluding my mortgage, of course. Okay. So, and then if you wanted to exclude the creditors, because you're always going to have creditors to pay each month, but they should go in there anyway. And if you've got cash, that's how much the cash is, 1,225. So, of course, the cash offsets that debt, or the other way around, which leaves me a negative net worth of $10,975. So if I have no other assets, and that is all the cash I have, and that is the debt that I owe, then technically I am insolvent. And the two insolvency law, the laws that govern insolvency, there are two arms of insolvency. And the first one is that your liabilities, which is the debt, exceed your assets. And the other half of the equation is that you cannot pay your creditors as they fall due. So in which case, although I may have debt, I can still pay off my creditors. My creditors are happy. So then for that reason, I'm not completely insolvent. And that's what a lot of people, I think, get stuck with, and what gets them into trouble is because they continue, and you can actually be insolvent for years, for a long period of time. And that's why this equation is so important to understand, to make sure that you're not continuing to get into debt over a long period of time. Now, the second part of this, what you notice here is I've actually put a bracket and a cross next to the ANZ payment. So, I hope you can see this okay. You should be able to see it all right, but I'll explain it. Now, because down below, I've actually got a summary. I've actually got a summary of the cash, which is the 1,025, and this is part of where the magic is. If you see where ANZ, I've only got one entry for ANZ, and that is these two amounts added together, which give me $9,500. So, and then you'll see BNZ here, which I've only got one amount that I owe BNZ, and the creditors $1,000, which gives me again an amount of $10,975, which is my net worth. And the magic in here is why you do this summary is because it only matters what company you owe the debt to. Doesn't matter, ANZ or the banks or anybody does not care whether it's a credit card, whether it's a loan. And if you're in business for yourself and you're not a company, the banks and other lenders will treat your debt, your business debt, as personal debt. So if you want to know, the key thing is how much do you owe each creditor, not how much you owe on your credit card or your loan. Of course, those things are important for your payments, but in terms of when you become insolvent, looking at your debt overall, it only matters how much you owe each creditor. Now, there was an interesting case. You might have heard of the Ponzi scheme, the Ross Asset Management Ponzi scheme. The High Court documents in there actually talked about how the judge for that case combined the two companies of Ross Asset Management. He had two companies that were in liquidation, and for the purposes of the insolvency and paying out the investors, he actually combined them. He actually was able to combine, the judge could combine the two companies into one. So that's because the only thing that matters is what debt you owe each creditor. And so that is the first point of magic with this, is to literally get an understanding of what creditors you owe each creditor. So, and that's what I love about doing that with position. Now, the second piece of magic, let me get a pen. And I will put this here because we've done this. Remember, we've done this as at the 31st of March. And we've come out, we realised that we have a net worth of minus $10,975. So I'm just, hopefully, now if you can't see this, I'll explain it anyway. So at the end of March, we have minus $10,975. Now what you do, sorry, you can't see that actually. My pen it's lost, sorry. So in March, this is what we've done as at the 31st of March. What you now go and do is you go and contact your bank, rub these figures out, contact your bank, or if they're on a spreadsheet, save them on the spreadsheet, and get the figures as they were at the end of the month before. So as your figures were, your cash and your debt, as at the 28th of February. And then you write that next to this figure here. But down on the spreadsheet, you'll put that wherever you want to put it. So you've got a figure, and sorry, I've just lost my pen. So at the end of February, we might have, for example, I might have a balance of minus $8,000, but this month I've got minus $10,000. Now again, you take those figures again and you go back to the previous month, which is January. So you get your figures on the spreadsheet as at the 31st of January 2019. And for example, I might have had minus $4,000. So what I notice with doing this exercise is for the month of March, my net worth was minus $10,000. The month of February, my net worth was minus $8,000. And for January, my net worth was minus $4,000. So what is actually happening as I look back over the past 3 months? My net worth, because it's minus, my net worth was actually, I was becoming more insolvent. My cash was getting less, and my debt, the amount of money, my net worth was actually, the negative was increasing. So my debt was getting bigger over time. So we go 4,000, 8,000, 10,000, and that is where really the magic is, because you can look back and you can see a pattern forming. So actually, what I'll do is I will, once you see that, I've got this on a spreadsheet if you want to ask me for that, but we'll do it this way. Maybe then you can see it, but better I'll just rub that out. Okay. So then maybe if you can see, then I can explain it. So we've got in end of March, the pen that works, Lisa. Right. So in March, we've got minus 10,975. And at the end of February, our net worth was minus $8,000. Okay. And then at the end of January, the net worth was minus $4,000. So you can see over time, from January, February, March to now, my minus is actually getting is getting more. I'm actually getting further into debt. So that's the purpose of doing this, because you can see a pattern, and I can see a pattern forming. And if for some reason that debt goes up and down, then go back 6 months and then go and ring up your bank, find out what you owed and how much cash you had again for another 3 months, and then look at it over a year if you want to. But for me, 3 months was enough, and I could actually see then, wow, my debt is increasing, I better do something about it. And unfortunately for me, I realised this, I came to this too late. And the time that you want to actually start doing this test is when you first take on debt. You establish your base, what your net worth is before you get into debt, and then you start doing this, and you do this for every month. You do it, and you can see whether your debt is increasing, because once you get debt, you'll have to, in that first month or the following month, you'll be required to pay it back. You'll have to start making payments on that debt. And you want to make sure that your income, your cash is still it's still increasing, and you're not becoming insolvent slowly over time. And if you keep becoming insolvent, and that is what has happened to me over time, my net worth, the minus balance, just kept increasing, and I was just getting further into debt. And once I did that equation, that is when I made the decision to say, well, hey, I need to do something about it. But then, even then, it was too late, and that is why I'm bankrupt today, because I did not do that exercise. So that's the key thing. a key point with doing the net worth is to know your financial position and know your cash position. Do that first before you even sign up any debt. Later on, we'll look at the company, when you've got your business, and how you can incorporate this into business as well. You can make it business and personal, just like you can do with the budget, which we'll do later. And also what I love about this, dealing in cash, is you'll remember last time, and I talked about CMC Markets, who I have joined up with, and I do have an online trading account, and they talk about a stop loss. And what that is as you put a loss when you put a trade on to trade with your cash, of course. You put a limit as to how far, if that stock is going to fall to a certain level. You put a stop on a point in time, or a point at a dollar value, so that your trade is going to stop you out, pull you out of that trade before you lose any more money. And that's what's great, I love about this, and this is where I got this idea to do the cash net worth position, was because you can say to yourself, and you can have a rule that says, hey, if I reach a minus $5,000 net worth, that's a kind of a trigger point for me to then make a different financial decision or do something different in my financials. And the same thing with business. You can do that in business as well, and we'll look at doing that and having our stop loss, which is a point that if our finances reach a certain dollar figure, we're going to make a different financial decision, so we don't fall and keep going down the cycle of getting into insolvency. Because the further you go, the faster you become insolvent. And so that's the lesson for today. Hope you enjoyed it. And yep, if there's any questions, you may leave them in the comments or send me an email. And good luck with that, and I hope you're getting your business ideas together. Next week we're going to talk about the cash flow forecast, and that will end, that's the section on the getting your finances sorted, so you know where you're up to, and we'll do a recap of that all together, and I'll kind of put it together for you so you can understand the process at the moment. So you've got the budget, the household budget first, and your net worth position. Have you actually got debt? Are you dealing with it? You want to be dealing with the debt, certainly, if before you take on a business. You don't want to be going into insolvency if you don't want to be heading into that track if you are actually wanting to start a business at the same time. Different strategies required. So, yep, and the cash flow forecast, the yearly cash flow forecast we'll look at doing, and that will complete that section. And, yep, that's it. Any questions, let me know, and have a great week. Bye for now.